If you're ready to unlock more better days, to take control of your health, to push past your limits and unleash your full potential, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Dr. Jeremy Bettle. For over 2 decades, I've worked with elite athletes and high performers, helping them optimize their bodies, strengthen their minds, and recover from setbacks. Now I'm bringing that expertise to you through the Vitality Collective podcast. In each episode, we'll dive deep into the science, strategies, and real-world solutions you can apply right away. Whether it's enhancing your physical performance, avoiding or recovering from injury, sharpening your mental edge, or simply feeling your best every single day. With insights from top experts and thought leaders, this podcast is designed to help you take action, feel better, and live the life that you deserve. Welcome to the Vitality Collective podcast, where every day is vital. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Gabrielle Fundaro, an exercise scientist and coach specializing in weight-neutral approaches to health and body image. In this conversation, we talk about why weight loss carries psychological risks that most people don't know about, covering the difference between body image and appearance, what informed consent really means in coaching weight loss, and why the number on the scale rarely delivers what we hope it will. If you're somebody who's been struggling with chronic dieting, or you're a coach who's working with clients around weight and body image, this conversation's for you. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I'm so excited to welcome to the show Dr. Gabrielle Fundaro. Gabrielle, welcome. I'm so excited for you to be here.
Thank you so much. And I am equally excited. I was already excited after our first conversation. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, we were too. This is such an important area for us. And I think it really doesn't get touched on enough. You know, today we're really going to start thinking about the body image beyond the scale. You know, as I've moved from sport into the general population, really seeing how people struggle with that one number on the scale. Or maybe they go into a bit more detail and they get their body composition measured. And it really becomes about these numbers, not whether it's about health promoting weight loss or actually improving body image. It really does come down to sort of this thin or not. And it's been a real challenge. I've experienced it personally in my life. Michelle has equally struggled with it. And so really excited to hear a bit about your background and how this became important to you.
Absolutely. And yeah, I also have struggled with this. So I have firsthand experience really being on both sides of the situation, both as a client and health enthusiast, and then also as a coach. So my background early on was in exercise science and health education. And then I went on to get my doctorate, focusing on basically nutritional biochemistry, looking at skeletal muscle physiology and the link between metabolism and gut microbiome. And I went on to kind of follow the normal path, like post grad school. I was an assistant professor of exercise science. And I focused heavily on sport nutrition and anatomy and physiology. And I myself had started to lift and count macros when I was 18. So, by the time I started teaching, I had 10 years of experience, essentially chronic dieting and trying a bunch of different, diets and trying to be at my leanest all the time. And I actually ended up competing in a physique competition, I believe in my second year or first year of teaching, which is a blur because I was starving for 6 months. And so I don't really remember much of it. So suffice it to say, I mean, I had done, weightlifting and distance events and a physique competition. And I had also been diagnosed with an eating disorder when I was in college. And it took a few years to recover from that. And unfortunately, that physique competition caused a really significant relapse. And so that led to another 5 years of really struggling with my body image. And ironically, during this time, I ended up resigning from higher ed because I had started coaching part time and I wanted
Hmm.
to coach full time. And so while I was dealing with these struggles personally and quietly, because I was very ashamed that I was a coach, having body image issues and having difficulty controlling my weight and my eating. I was coaching clients who were experiencing many of the same things and exhibiting many symptoms of disordered eating that I was not able to identify because they were so normalized for me at the time and they were normal in the industry. So, fast forward several years, I really started to kind of explore weight neutral approaches because I saw people debating them online. And I was like, before I can enter this conversation, I need to ensure that I know what I'm talking about. So that's when I started like really digging into the research and trying to find potentially a middle ground or a more effective way to have these conversations. And that's when I realized that a lot of the things that we were using in the gym and the evidence-based basis like autoregulation were based on the same principles that weight neutral approaches to eating are based upon, largely interoceptive awareness, like using internal cues. And that just opened up the door to exploring, the science, the reality of weight neutral approaches and of weight focused approaches. And body image is so ingrained in, the science of the risk of intentional weight loss, as well as the benefits of weight neutral approaches. And so that's how I got where I am now.
Amazing. There's a lot to unpack there. First of all, thank you for being so candid about that. We recently did an interview with Steph Cordial, who she was one of my athletes at UC Santa Barbara, and then has gone on to do amazing things. But she talked about similarly while she was an athlete, her journey through disordered eating, and then going into this world of you are the girl with the six pack, right? And
Hmm.
how that can really shape your thinking and challenge you in those regards. So it's an important message, and as you said, it's the quiet struggling. It's very little of it is said up front. So people like yourself and like Steph talking about this publicly is really doing a huge service. So again, thank you for that. I think it's another really interesting point that you made about it being a coach in the industry. It's really shown up for me and becomes really stark when I've basically never been happy with how I've looked,
Yeah.
right, to this day. and and yet I will look back on pictures and see and be like, damn, I was in pretty damn good shape.
Yep.
And I was so hard on myself during that period. And
Hmm.
it's almost like I don't, what do I look like that now or not? Like it's almost like I don't know. It's
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
challenging what you actually see in the mirror. And because we're supposed to be coaches, we're supposed to reflect that outward image. And then I've been surrounded by professional athletes my whole career. It's
Hmm.
like my checks and balances are all off.
Oh yeah, you have a lot that you're comparing yourself to, and it's inherently subjective. And like you can't see, you can't see yourself objectively, like what you're actually looking
Hmm.
at. And so, yeah, that satisfaction like just never shows up until you look back on how you used to look, and then wonder how you ever were unhappy in that physique.
Yeah. And you mentioned a term there, weight neutral approaches. Can you describe that a little bit?
So, weight neutral approaches can take place in a non clinical setting with a coach and a client, and they can also take place in a medical setting. And essentially, they decentralize weight change, or more often, weight loss, as the primary focus, outcome, and sign of success of an intervention. And instead, they focus on the modifiable behaviors that are available to a person, the modifiable health promoting behaviors. So they also take into consideration the external limitations that someone might be facing due to, for example, their socioeconomic status. And so, really, it's about increasing access to health promoting resources, and the outcomes that are measured are not related to weight change. They are more direct. So they're actually going to measure improvements in blood pressure, for example, or improvements in lipid panels, or strength markers, or
Hmm.
psychological improvements, things looking at body image in relationship with food. So weight can change. It's not that it is an anti-weight change or anti-weight loss approach. It's just not something that is part of the picture. It just is going to be, if it happens, it'll be a side effect.
I absolutely love that. It's an approach that Michelle and I have taken for a long time. Still with its challenges. Society, I think, still wants you come back to your appearance and your weight and body composition. But that's sort of how I've started challenging myself on this is okay, what can I not currently do? Right, that I want to be able to do. What am I challenged with? What are my health factors that I'm worried about right now? And really I can't come up with anything. So it's that cognitive dissonance of knowing, like,
Hmm.
I'm a perfectly healthy, very strong, quite fit, cardiovascularly adult,
Yeah.
but I don't have a six pack, and that's okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah.
Right.
I know that's the thing, is that people have, they tend to value external appearances
Hmm.
more than the invisible markers of health, because we have attached such a high level of morality and value to health and how it's supposed to look. But we can't walk around with like a pin that says, I have great cholesterol, and, here's my blood pressure and my resting heart rate. We don't see those things, but we do see how lean a person is. And then from that, we make assumptions about their health status, whether or not those are actually correct. And so it is sort of like the one way that people have to display, their health and fitness status.
Yeah, it's like a virtue signal to the outside world.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think you're right in that, we don't necessarily have to take away that. If that's your goal, if that's going to be health promoting, fine. But I love how you described it before, where weight loss is a contact sport, and everybody doesn't come out unscathed. Maybe you
Yes.
just dig in and explain that for people.
Yes, yes. This is something that I thought of, oh my gosh, like years ago, maybe like 6 years ago now. And it wasn't like intentional. I just thought, gosh, like weight loss, intentional weight loss is risky. I mean, it really comes with more, psychological than physical risks necessarily, when we
Hmm.
compare it to being in the gym or something or on the field. But people just don't know about the risks, and why aren't they signing like informed consent waivers? And that's where it kind of came from. So the reason that I say that it's like a contact sport is that it does come with inherent risks, and even though they might be more invisible, that doesn't mean that they aren't present or that we are impervious to them. And also that certain people will be at an increased risk of injuring themselves due to previous circumstances, due to their personal context. So the same thing that we could say in a sport. If an athlete has had a concussion in the past, then they're going to be at increased risk of a serious brain injury, and they may need to go about playing the sport in a different way. And in some instances, people cannot safely engage in certain contact sports. If they have had a history of severe enough injuries, then it is going to put their lives at risk. And so that can happen with intentional weight loss as well. And on the other hand, people can go about doing contact sports or high risk activities, skydiving, rock climbing, in the safest way possible with protective equipment and proper technique. And I have never been a supporter of just like abstinence from, we have to tell everyone not to try to lose weight, or we have to tell
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone that they have to track macros. Neither one of those extremes is helpful. And so I'm very much in the camp of supporting bodily autonomy and allowing people to make decisions about how they might want to modify their bodies in an informed way. And so
Hmm.
the intentional weight loss becomes problematic and ethically questionable when we withhold information or when we're not aware of information as health professionals, because then our clients cannot make informed decisions. And just like they need to make informed decisions with, drugs or cosmetic surgery, like they need to be able to do the same thing when it comes to pursuing intentional weight loss.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think a lot of practitioners have not been educated in those psychological risk factors. What are some of the things that both, I think, from a practitioner standpoint, like what should I be aware of as I coach people, and also for people listening who might be trying to lose weight or trying to diet or look a certain way? What what should we be looking out for here as the risk factors?
So the risk factors kind of come in three different flavors. So they come in historical factors, kind of like the historical context of the person. They're psychological factors, like kind of aspects of their personality, and their motives. So looking from a historical perspective, if a person has a history of chronic dieting, that is going to put them at increased risk of developing disordered eating behaviors and worsened body image. If they tend to be perfectionist, very self-critical, and adhere to or prefer kind of rigid approaches, especially when it comes to something like tracking, that's very common. That's also going to increase their risk of developing some level of disordered eating or body image disturbance. And having an appearance focused goal is also the type of goal that is more associated with that risk when compared to goals that are really sincerely focused on health or performance. There are also external factors, so pressure from family and from coaches and even from medical professionals that can also place them at an increased risk of developing some disordered eating, worsening body image, experiencing some level of harm during the process of intentional weight loss.
Yeah. It's interesting, the goal piece. I've had several clients, men and women, come to me with the goal of increasing their lean mass. They want to get stronger. They know they need muscle mass,
Mhm.
and strength is very important. They know that bone density is a real challenge for them, and so they want to increase their bone mass. And so these are their spoken outward goals,
Yeah.
and yet any change in the scale. So I want to add mass, but I don't want to gain weight.
Yeah.
And I think I gained a half a pound of body fat, or so it's reading between the lines, I think, beyond the stated goal that's more intellectual, and I understand I need this thing, and then there's the deep conditioning of I have to look a certain way, and that number cannot change. And the
Yeah.
number of conversations I've had where we have a session, you think, yes, we cracked it, we've got through. Next session, we're right back, and it's all these inputs. Don't eat carbs, don't eat that, and it's hugely challenging for people going through that journey.
Yeah. And that's such a great point, and something that I speak about as well, about not necessarily taking what they state their goals are at face value, that there is going to be something underneath that goal. And sometimes people will say things in ways that are maybe more politically correct, like, I just want to get healthier. But what they really mean is that they want to lose weight. And that, yeah, all the healthy habits are great, but if I'm not losing weight, if I'm not looking leaner, then I'm not really going to be excited about it. Like that, I might not have said it, but I really want to look different. I really want to lose
Hmm.
weight. And the change in behavior and even the change in health markers often isn't enough to feel satisfying because that wasn't really what they were after. It just is that they kind of know these days that it's not as acceptable to say, no, I just want to lose weight. No, I just want to be leaner. I just want to look good
Yeah.
naked.
Right. Right. And so how do you navigate that as a coach?
It's always about asking either, what does that look like for you? If someone says, oh, I just want to get healthier, like, what does that look like for you? If someone starts describing their physique, then that's a clue that they're not thinking about health in a comprehensive way in terms of well-being. They're saying, I think that health, it means a smaller body, or I want other people to think that I am healthy because I know that's what they're going to think if I'm in a smaller body. And then sometimes asking, what do you hope that that is going to give, like that you don't have right now? What do you hope that that is going to bring to you? Like, what do you really want to change about your life? Why is this the way that seems like the fastest or the best path? Like if you reach that scale weight, what do you think is going to be different in your life?
Hmm.
And if a person starts to express that, a smaller body or a specific number on the scale or lean, if they start to express beliefs about how much that is going to improve the rest of their lives, their quality of life, their body image, their relationships, then that is a yellow flag. That
Hmm.
shows that this person has internalized weight stigma. They're very dissatisfied with their appearance and they have unrealistic beliefs and expectations about what weight loss is going to do for them. And so even if they do achieve the weight loss goals, they will very likely come out of that still feeling unsatisfied and wondering
Yeah.
why.
So I think that's a really interesting point you've made there, and I'd like to define the what body image actually is versus that appearance. Can you
Yes, yeah.
break that down for us?
hmm So body image refers to the thoughts and feelings that you have about your body. So that's internal, it's your cognitions, your emotions. Whereas your appearance is your physical form. It's the external part of you that you can see and others can see. But your body image can influence your perception, your interpretation of the way that. And when we say, I want to feel more confident, I want to have a better body image, a lot of times people think that that means liking the way that you look. But actually, positive body image is not about focusing on your appearance or liking your appearance. It is about having a flexible perspective to your appearance, not being super attached to it and being respectful and trustful of yourself and your body regardless of how it looks. Whereas when we just like the way that we look, sometimes that can actually be a symptom of negative body image because that can come from a high appearance valuation and high appearance preoccupation. So if we're focusing a lot of our time and attention on controlling our external appearance, even if we like it, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have a positive body image. It means that we are not in that moment triggering our negative body image because we are conforming with society's standards and we are in agreement, we are satisfied with how we look. But that doesn't mean that we have the protective factors in place, in case weight regain does occur, which is very common.
Yeah, you mentioned going through a physique competition. I've done similar things in my past, and the psychological impact that being incredibly lean and not just lean, but like show ready. We had
Yeah.
a conversation on the pod a little while ago talking about Hugh Jackman posing for photos as Wolverine, during
hmm
that period. And when you've been that lean, it's really hard to not be that lean because you basically
Yeah.
never are again. right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like you feel so cool when you're like when you're in that moment, you like, it's the best that you've ever looked and you get so much attention. I mean, it's like it's a different version of yourself.
Yeah. And so what are some of those safeguards then that we need to build in there? Because I've been there, and I grew up as an athlete. I had a very good physique, and it was sort of what I received positive attention for growing up. So I was very identified with it. My weight as an entrepreneur has changed. My body composition has changed, different life stages where it's up and down. What are some of those safeguards against my psychological perception of that, despite being a very healthy and well-functioning adult?
hmm Well, just like we said, weight loss is a contact sport or a high risk endeavor. There are certain sports and high risk endeavors that are riskier than others. So, like rock climbing is potentially going to be riskier than skating, even though you can fall down and hurt yourself skating or you can run into someone. Rock climbing, the injury is going to be more severe. So it's the same thing. We're talking about like, how can I reduce the risk of engaging in a physique competition versus reducing the risk of pursuing intentional weight loss as a person with maybe a complex history with dieting and body image, but not someone who's getting ready for a competition. So I say that because, these protective factors can only go so far. And I think part of it is being prepared for the fallout afterwards when we're talking about something like a physique competition that, it might be worthwhile to, if you don't have one already, find like a mental health professional to work with and just be aware of the fact that that pursuit is going to be far more extreme and risky than, pursuing a cosmetic weight loss of, a small amount of weight. So, and as I mentioned before, if a person is pursuing health or performance goals, the risk is relatively lower. So I'll focus more on the appearance-based goals because those are really some of the most common. And even when people say, hey, I want to get healthier, I want to perform better, they have appearance ideals in mind and they probably have some unspoken goals. So the first step is to ensure that the person is fully informed of the risks and realities. So that can open the door to the conversation about, is getting to a certain scale weight actually going to help you feel more secure in your relationship? If it does, and if it does, that means that now the security in your relationship isn't coming from the relationship, but from the number on the scale. And that's probably not where you want it to be coming from. So establishing that foundation of really being informed and aware. And then if the person still wants to pursue the intentional weight loss, then we still want to work in skills that support psychological flexibility. So things like acceptance and commitment training and cognitive behavioral coaching that allows people to be less rigid in their thinking, addressing self-criticism and perfectionism if those are present. So helping people to first feel safe enough to practice self-compassion and then practicing self-compassion or the psychological flexibility skills and also supporting the thoughts and skills that are actually a part of positive body image. So body image flexibility, appreciation, respect. And so that could look like journaling activities, working that into coaching sessions, and really being intentional about having that psychological support in to help people with avoid becoming very rigid in their nutrition approach, for example, and then also helping to support their body image so they don't become so attached to that external appearance. And when it comes to tracking, really using the minimum effective dose, which could be something like tracking body weight, 2 or 3 times a week, and tracking for weight loss does not have to be a daily occurrence. It looks like 5 days a week can be an effective amount. And for weight maintenance, it's down to about 3 days a week. So using tracking in a judicious way rather than saying, well, we're going to track everything and take progress photos. It also needs to be the client's choice.
Yeah.
If they say, I don't want to track macros, then they don't need to track macros. Then there's something else that can, be a part of that. And on the coach's side, being aware of their own internalized weight bias and how that can show up in their practice, and trying their best to be socially and culturally aware as well, so that as the person is pursuing this goal, they're not losing parts of their identity. They're not replacing like their, ethnic identity with this new fitness identity where like they can't eat
Mhm.
rice, for example.
Right.
And making sure that we allow that person to pursue this goal in the most authentic way possible. And that goes with setting goals as well, that the goals don't, everyone's so big on SMART goals. The science shows that you don't have to follow SMART goals. So I came up with a different framework that really focuses more on the goal being safe and adaptable and flexible and ethical rather than just being like specific and measurable. Because as I mentioned before, someone can meet their weight loss goal and still come out worse for it because like they've worsened their body image.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think worse in a number of levels, right? The goal I think is a really interesting piece because we talked about what's below the goal, and it's probably I'll be happy, confident, safe when,
Yep.
and lo and behold, you achieve the goal and you'll be happy, confident, and safe when, right? It's this constant moving target that just keeps you drifting in that direction. And you get into this mentality of I always need to be in this weight loss mode in my diet. I always need to be in a calorie deficit. I always need to be conscious of what I'm eating and don't eat the bad stuff, eat the good stuff. And I think that drift can be challenging, but also sort of set you up for failure, where you start bouncing because you get so deprived for so long that now we're binging, and now we're way overeating at the end of the day or when we do have a treat.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I was so there. I mean, I remember working with a coach and saying, I don't think that tracking macros is working for me. Like I track really well and then I end up like binging on the weekends, but I don't know what else to do. Like, I think that this is part of the problem, but it took me a long time to even admit that because I was like, why can't I just track macros? Like, why am I being so emotional about it? Like, what's wrong with me? I used to be able to do this. And unfortunately, that coach didn't have another option. Their option was like, well, do you want to like track just a little bit less? And I was like, do you have an option where I don't have to do this? And like they didn't. And it was really unfortunate that, I felt so stuck and so ashamed. And then their response, that there wasn't another option really made me feel even worse. Like there was something wrong with me because, this is obviously the right thing to be doing. And I really just had to take it upon myself to say, okay, I'm going to just do this on my own. And I made the leap to not tracking. I went to like plate planning, and trying some things that I had learned from a sport dietitian that like coincidentally were very helpful. But yeah, I mean, I just felt like I was spiraling and it probably took close to a year for me to go from, this is a real problem to I'm going to start making changes. I'm going to start taking steps to do something else because I can't, like, I could see how small my life had gotten and how much it had taken over.
Yeah, and it's difficult, isn't it, as well? Because like I bet you didn't track those days at the weekend where you just like throwing everything you can like down
Mhm.
your neck. I know from personal experience, I know from coaching people how much people change their habitual diet when you ask them to track. So now I'm
Yeah.
just going to eat what I think you think is perfect.
Hmm.
And my diet log's going to look great for that. You asked me to track my macros for 10 days and I hit everything. Great. And we look at it
Hmm.
like, okay, well, nothing to work on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And
when we shift into the habit base, what are the behaviors
yeah.
that are going to promote the progress or the directionality that you would like? Not even removing stuff, just make sure you're getting this right. We're not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is incredible, like how once I got through the phase, I mean, I really went through like all of the sort of intuitive eating phases of like, oh, now I can eat whatever I want. And I ate all of the things. And sometimes to the point that I felt, uncomfortably full, but I habituated them very quickly. And so it was like, oh, now, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are like, and, Reese's peanut butter cups are, and I have tried all this stuff. And so, it took time. It took a couple of years, but my dietary habits are so stable. And I don't track my weight anymore, but I can tell that it is so stable because of how my clothes fit. And even for a time, I think maybe a couple of years ago, I was just curious because I was like, I haven't weighed myself in a while. And, I'm just eating like I say I'm eating what I want, like I'm not eating what my tongue always wants. I'm not just eating the stuff that tastes good, but I'm eating the things that I enjoy and that I know are nutritious in comfortable amounts. And my weight was incredibly stable. I mean, more than it had been when I was really rigid about tracking macros. And like it settled at a lower range than I was having a difficult time maintaining when I was tracking macros. And it's not to say that like a smaller body is the default or that like once have a good relationship with food, you're going to lose weight. It's to say that I was having, even with all of the external rules of the macros and I knew what I was supposed to be eating, I was so caught in the cycle of restricting and overeating and restricting and overeating that I couldn't tell what would be a satisfying amount. And I felt so anxious about feeling satisfied that I would oscillate between always hungry or uncomfortably full. And so it's like a different now. I mean, I don't think about macros, but I eat like a very stable dietary pattern. I don't feel like I need to do anything different on the weekends. If I want to have a brownie or something like that, I can just have it. And it's just like this relaxed approach. And I don't have to try and control anything. And it's just like existing. Yeah.
Yeah, which is difficult, isn't it? Because like we are taught to moralize food. The gasp. Wow, you're a coach and you ate a brownie. And even the time scale that you put on that. You said it. It took me 2 years. Well, this magazine said I can get abs in 10 days. Right? We're not thinking in those timelines. How did you reconcile that? Where it's okay if this change doesn't happen tomorrow. If I'm not super disciplined and I can get this done.
Mm. I didn't know really how long it was going to take. I don't know. Maybe if you would have told me in the beginning, like, this is good, this can take up to 2 years, I would have been like, ooh, I don't know. Maybe just living with the constant strife and psychological distress is preferable. But it really was just kind of a stepwise process. And in some parts dictated by changes in my personal life, just like external factors that did not facilitate the continuance of tracking macros and being super rigid and restrictive. But yeah, I mean, it started with like the plate planning, and the plate planning was still very structured, and I still, didn't really have a lot of sweets and stuff in the house. I did that gradually. So I would bring in, whatever food I wanted to have, those Reese's cups or peanut butter or whatever, and then say like, this is the thing I'm going to eat as much of this as I want until I don't want it anymore. Then it usually would be like a few days, several days. And then I'd be like, oh, I just don't like, you don't want chocolate cake at every meal. Actually, you don't.
As it turns out.
So yeah, I know. I was like, oh, this is a shock. Um, and then from there, it's like, as you gather experience and evidence and grow to feel safer in the situations that were previously very scary, then you can kind of go to the next level. Like my clients have called this like opening a capacity door. Like you go up the stairs and you get to the top level, and then there's kind of like a trap door, and then you open that one, and then you go and start at the bottom of another level. And so, from there it was, okay, well, what if I don't do plate planning anymore? What if I just like put stuff in a bowl and estimate the amount that I might want to eat in this bowl. I can't do plate
So just
planning here.
ask really quick, can you describe that for us? What is plate planning?
Yeah. So plate planning is based on kind of like the newer. Like we don't have the food pyramid anymore. There's
Hmm.
the my plate. Um, but there are different ways. I mean, there are like athlete versions and whatnot. But it essentially is dividing your plate into a section for carbo. You start with carbohydrates, and then like fibrous veggies, and then lean proteins, and then having a thought or two of fat, and using your hand to estimate portion sizes, and then ensuring and like eating basically on like a standard size dinner plate. And that way you can ensure that you're getting, without having to count, a reasonably close number of like macros that you might need, or portion or serving sizes. So it's a structured way, and it's still, there's like still external guidance, in terms of how to divide the plate. But when you're just putting stuff in a bowl, the plate planning doesn't it doesn't
Yeah,
apply.
right, right.
Yeah. But at one point I just didn't want to have to divide my plate anymore. I was like, what if I want to have pasta? What if I want to have pad thai? Like what if I want to put rice in a bowl and then put something on that? Like
Yeah,
I don't want my whole life to go from, oh, it's all macros to now it's all plate planning.
yeah. And what even is a thumb of fat? Like,
Yeah.
because my steak might
Hmm.
have fat in it, and this might have fat, and that might have fat,
Right.
right? How do I even know?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it evolved over time to, I have the foods that I enjoy, and I still eat fruits and vegetables. I'm like very intentional about making sure that I have vegetables at least 2 meals, and that I have at least 2 fruits a day. But like aside from that, I'm not counting anything. Like I just kind of, I know the amount that I need to put on my plate or in my bowl to feel satisfied. Like I'm not stuffed, I'm not full. I'm just like, there's no more hunger and I am done. I want to go do something else now. The food noise has also quieted down so much.
That's a fascinating piece, and I think that's something that I think people who are quote unquote naturally very thin don't realize about the noise, the food noise. Like maybe they just
Yes.
don't have that so much.
Hmm.
Um, it's really interesting as well. Like with you mentioned the emotionality around maybe it's tracking, maybe it's whatever, but that's what I came to realize more and more over my career is I was so dogmatic about macros and the morals of food. What are the bad foods and the good foods? And especially in the athletic population, it's all very functional. And moving into actually coaching people, there is so much attached to food, so
Yes.
much coming out, even childhood and all these experiences with food as we grow and mature, and the societal pressures that actually most of my nutrition coaching now is the psychology involved in it as much as it is the actual content of your plate.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, that is, I think, like, for some reason, it seems that in previous years, a lot of people in the fitness industry, and maybe even especially in the evidence based space, were reticent to speak about the emotional or the psychological side of eating and coaching and things like body image. They're like, oh no, that's therapy, that's for the therapist, that's not us, we're just here to get macros, the clients just need to follow the plan and stop being so emotional about it, stop being so soft. And it's like, no, the psychology is why that person came to you. Like the emotional side is why that person came to you. If that person was not experiencing any emotions or thoughts about their body or their weight, they would not be in front of you. They would not be asking for your services. So you are absolutely working with this person's psychology and with their emotions. And if you're not doing that in an informed, aware, ethical way, then you can really be doing harm even if you don't intend to. Like most coaches don't want to go out and give people eating disorders, but like when they're just completely unaware and unwilling to um, make themselves aware, then they're really doing a disservice to their clients.
Yeah, and I think even if we don't get to the disordered eating level, changing behavior is just hard.
Yeah,
It's all this. It's not, you think I don't know I need to eat a certain amount of vegetables?
right.
What if you don't know how to prepare them? Right? What if like there's all these psychological factors around just habitual routine that we
Yes.
have to be educated in just to get people to change their habit, regardless of what they tell you the goal is.
Right. Yeah.
Like, what's blocking them from that? I guarantee it's not information.
No. Yes. Like people know. And I mean, as coaches, we struggle with things and like we know, like
Mhm.
we've got like, so we've got the credentials and whatnot. I mean, I have struggled, like this year has been one of the busiest years of my life since grad school. And let me tell you, I have not been going to the gym consistently. Do I know that I should be going to the gym? Yes. I have great training plans I've designed for myself. I even want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
But in the moments when I'm like, I want to go to the gym, but I still have work that I need to do. Like I still have work that I need to do. I can't just not show up to work. And so my my choice is really made for me. And no, I'm not going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym because that is going to ruin the rest of my day. And so that is just simply not an option for me. And the other thing is that I've lived now in South America for a year and a half, and I've traveled internationally, and I've seen how difficult it is, depending on your environment, to get fresh vegetables and to walk to the gym, or like. So that's the other aspect, is that we can't assume that because this person is working with us that they're just like us. That person has another set of circumstances. And, even though they might look like us, that doesn't mean that their lives are the same and that the options that we have are the same options that they have.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and those life pressures, I think, as a young coach, that was the season of life I was in. I went to work and I trained and I ate right.
Yep.
And that those were the demands on my life. It was a very
Yeah.
uncomplicated life early on, right?
Yes.
And now we're the same. We're 2 years into starting our company, and couldn't have imagined the change in my priorities on exercise, on nutrition, on all these things that, again, I know I have the information, but it's just there's only 24 hours.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, now the lived experience has made me a lot more flexible and
Hmm.
empathetic in what people are going through, but also flexible, I think, in my own approach to doesn't have to look perfect,
Yeah.
right? What can you give me? Okay, I got 20 minutes to work out here. Great, let's get it in. I
Yes.
think it's the flexibility with life stage, and I think the self compassion,
Yes.
recognition of the life stage you're in,
Hmm.
and being able to say, okay, look, that version of me isn't for now,
Yes.
and it's just different.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the keys to being like, in the big picture, consistent. Like I have been going to the gym since I was 18. So I've got like 20 years of going to the gym. The last several months, maybe I was going to the gym twice a week.
Hmm.
That is still fine. Like that's fine. That's great. I'm maintaining, like I'm still going to the gym and I'm able to maintain that. That's what is reasonable for me. And that's what's feasible. And so I don't feel guilty. I'm not comparing myself to what I used to be able to do. And so I think that helps to lift the pressure and the stress and the anxiety that can actually make it even harder to go, because it's like, oh, well, it's only 2 days. I really was supposed to go 5 days. Say that you're supposed to go one day. And then if you go 2 days, that's twice as much. So it's like really like the shift in perspective and what I expect from myself is so different now. Cause I'm like, I'm thinking big picture. I still want to go to the gym. I miss it. And I know right now is a season. And if it's 2 days a week, it just is what it is. Or if it's not going for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it is what it is. Like there's no sense in arguing with the reality of the situation, which is part of acceptance. Acceptance is just not arguing with the reality of the situation. And when we can do that, like then we actually become more flexible and open-minded about what could actually work for me in the situation. Because the going to the gym 5 days a week is not it. It's not happening. It's not an option. But like, what else could I do? And, or if it's not, the gym isn't an option, well, what can I do to take care of myself in terms of like nutrition or rest or stretching? And so it really does open up the possibilities to how else can like my lifestyle look.
My therapist, Keith, he's been on the show a couple of times. And I've been working with him for 15 plus years now. He
So
wrote an article, he's got a great blog on his website, and it was, sorry, I'm making this sound easy. Right.
yes.
And I think there's an element
Mm,
of that as you and I talk about our transition through this, that it's hard,
yeah.
right? We're talking about it now like, oh, just acceptance. Right?
Right.
Like that's
Yeah.
something that you just turn on, right? So what was your process, right? How did you go through these stages of fluctuations and of going through a 2 year process of adapting your diet and getting to where you are today, where okay, I'm pretty comfortable with how things are going.
Yeah. I mean, this might also sound like, oh, I'm sorry, this sounds easy. A
Just
lot
do
of
it.
it came down, yes. I mean, a lot of it came down to, and I've just prefaced this by saying I have diagnosed ADHD, and based on
Mhm.
other evaluations that I have undergone, yeah, I'm probably also on the spectrum because that would explain some of the things that ADHD can't explain. And so I have a tendency to be very rigid and need systems and structure and to ruminate. And so I think that part of what has helped me has been therapy for sure, and potentially also medication that has helped create the environment that maybe a neurotypical person would have, where
Mhm.
one can actually intentionally train their attention and decide to think about something else, like decide not to continue. I mean, that was a big problem for me, was that I would have like rumination and really severe cycles of thought and fear about like, I'm going to gain 5 pounds in a day if I don't track my macros. So really like, the like worst case scenario was always just around the corner for me. So I cannot discount the impact potentially that medication has had, and absolutely therapy has helped so much, because
Mhm.
so much of the fear that we have and the desire for control of our bodies comes from whatever we went through in the past. Comes from the traumatic childhood experience, or I should say adverse childhood experiences, and things that
Mhm.
happened before we got to where we are today, but they absolutely have an impact on the way that we perceive ourselves and what we think is going to make us feel safe. So I really had to not just go to therapy, but like apply, what I was learning and be intentional about doing what I needed to do to heal those parts of myself that had grown up thinking I'm not enough and I'm not safe and I need to look a certain way to be safe. When you're in a safer space psychologically, then it becomes much easier to kind of like redirect when those thoughts come up. I still have thoughts that are like, but what if I just like tracked and just saw what I was eating? Or, what if I just like intentionally lost weight? And oh, yeah, I've got some cellulite. And oh, I'm like, I know I'm getting older. Kind of like those thoughts still show up. But it's the psychological flexibility aspect, the acceptance that says, like, yes, I'm getting older. Yes, I have cellulite. Like, yes, I probably have gained some weight in the last month or so because I haven't been working out and I've been super sedentary because I've been working so much. Yes. And I'm not going to worry about it. And I'm going to do something else that I know is actually in my best interest. That I'm going to be intentional in my behaviors because I can't control all of my thoughts, but I can decide how I'm going to respond to them. So that is the important aspect of like a more positive body image is that I can still have body dissatisfaction. So that's one aspect of negative body. I can still say, I'm not a big fan of the cellulite. Like I'm not. I don't have to lie
Hmm.
about it and be like, I love this. I embrace every part of myself.
Hmm.
No, I don't really like that part. But it's the flexibility and the respect and the acceptance that allows me to respond to that by saying, it's just not really worth my effort though to worry about it. Like I've got so many other things that I'm doing, so many other things that are more important than going on a diet because I have cellulite.
Yeah, and I think you'd made the point earlier, like on the goal thing, fine. I don't like that I gained some body fat, but I think if we go back to that sort of framework that people can run through, like, okay, so if I've got some extra body fat, some cellulite, whatever it is, how is it actually impacting my health? Am I less healthy because of it? And we can measure that, right?
Hmm.
Go do your blood work, go do all the
Yep.
tests, right? You can see. Um, Are you able to do less stuff that you like doing? I can still hike. I can still ride my bike and do all these functional things that are good. And so I think maybe there's a bit of a reframe. Okay, we can accept this current situation because it's not necessarily impacting our health. It's an aesthetic thing that we would like to do. So we can accept and we can work on improving if we so choose or when we have time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think there's an issue with people having the goal. It's just
Hmm.
what's it really going to do? And I think that's one of the things would said and we talked
Yeah.
about is what is this really going to do for you?
Hmm.
Okay, you go
Yeah.
on, you obsess like, okay, I'm going to diet away this cellulite. To what end? Right?
Right. Right. Exactly. And I think, and this is something I've heard from clients too, that once you realize that like weight loss is not going to solve your real problems, then you're like, oh man, but that I wanted to have that option, right?
Yeah.
I wanted it to be that easy that I could just be like, hey, you know what? But I can lose weight and so I'll be fine. Like we know now that if I have intergenerational trauma, if I don't have, if I feel insecure in my relationship with my partner, if I feel unsatisfied in my career, unfortunately, now we know like weight loss is not going to fix that. I've got to do the harder stuff. I've got to go to therapy or I've got to like actually address my triggers and, my issues from childhood. That stuff is way harder, but it's just such a bummer when that panacea of weight loss, turns out to be snake oil. And now we don't have that anymore. And it's just like, oh man, what a bummer. What, like, it's not as appealing.
It is. It's a real bummer. I think it is difficult because I think people want this to be about food, to be about macros, right? To be about your percent body fat. It's basically never that.
Yeah. And if it is, I mean, I'm like, go ahead. I look at weight loss as a form of body modification, and not every type is super deep. People get tattoos because they're fun and they just want to
Right.
have a tattoo,
And they
you
look
know?
cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I really like this tattoo, but like having the tattoo doesn't necessarily mean something about them as a person. And if they didn't have the tattoo or if it fades or something, it's like, oh, big deal. I mean, it was a tattoo. I can just cover it up. And there are people that approach body modification in terms of like weight change in the same way. That they're just like, this is just like the meat suit that I'm in for a while I'm on Earth. And sometimes I like it when it has way less body fat and that looks cool. And then when I have more body fat, like that doesn't matter. It's fine. Like I still am good with myself. And in that case, it's not really the appearance based goal. itself that drives the risk, but it's the reasons behind it. It's like
Mm.
the, intense body dissatisfaction. It is the internalized weight stigma. It's the messages that drive an appearance-based goal because a person thinks, yeah, I'm going to be confident, happier, better body image, like life is just going to be better when I'm smaller. That's really what drives the risk. It just so happens to be that that is usually linked to an appearance focused goal. But like, if you are in a good place, I mean, I feel like right now, yeah, if I wanted to be bothered to lose weight, I could almost certainly go through that process unscathed and it'll just be like, eh. But, like you said, what is it really going to do me?
Hmm.
It's not going to do anything to improve the rest of my life. Because I'm going to have to be in a deficit. I might be tired and low energy. None of that is aligned with my goals for my career or my education. Right now, my what I'm doing with my body, what I'm eating and going to the gym and whatnot is to like maintain my muscle mass and my bone mineral density because I'm, nearing perimenopause and because I want to have energy and focus. And there are things that I want to do during my day. And being in a deficit and focusing on weight loss is not compatible with those things.
Yeah, it was really interesting when we last spoke. You mentioned a conversation with a client where they said, I just thought I was really bitchy and mean, but actually I was
Yes.
just hungry.
Hmm. Yes.
So if we want to
Yes.
interact with the world, it would probably be a good thing if we were fed.
Exactly. And then I have clients that, when they'll go on vacation or something, or just like they start to eat more, even if they're tracking, like starting to eat at maintenance. And it's like, wow, the gym felt amazing. Yeah, it does when you're fully fueled. It feels
It's really
great.
interesting. We moving here, we just in a disrupted in a really disrupted stage of life, moving across the country, settling in a new place. And so we weren't focusing on our macros, we weren't focusing on our diet, but we were training really hard. Michelle commented like every time in the gym, basically, she's setting new PRs, she's lifting weight, she's really like going through her workout, feeling amazing.
Yep.
And it was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's what this
Yes.
can feel like.
Yes. And I think when we're in that like chronic restriction phase, we get so used to everything being hard and like being
Yeah.
tired and living off energy drinks and like the gym just feels like an absolute grind. And when you go in, after a vacation, or I think I just missed, I probably was like, I wasn't in the gym, I think for like 3 weeks. And I came back and I was like, wow, nothing hurts. All my joints feel so good. And like, I like this feels great. It's so nice to be back. And even
Yeah.
though, I'm sure some detraining occurred, like because I'm fully fueled and I well rested and whatnot, I mean, it just felt great. I was like, I actually needed this rest. And no, I didn't shrink away, to nothing. Like I'm pretty much the same as I was 3 weeks ago because it's actually not that long of a time.
Right. And it goes back to those time frames, right? We're taught
Yes.
that all of this stuff is in such tight time frames, right? 6 week abs and this crash diet and this here's your 10-week muscle gaining program. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen like that,
Yeah.
right? So long as we're consistent over long periods of time, the fluctuations are actually going to be quite small.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah. But it's like when you are, I think when a lot of people start with such a restrictive place that they never really get the chance to build evidence and build experience with the just boring, sustainable day to day, healthy fitness related habits. It's like, boom, start in on macros and like a bodybuilding style diet for 3 months. And then, where do you go from there? And anything less than that feels like it's not enough, even though it would have been more than what they were doing before this extreme, 3 month bodybuilding style diet.
Yeah. Isn't it fascinating? We actually reframed away from the basics to the fundamentals or just the most important things you can possibly do for your health and well-being. I'm not going to give you a supplement. I'm not going to give you,
Right.
a silver bullet. It's just take care of these big rocks that do 99% of what you're trying to do with this one diet,
Hmm.
and you'll be fine. Right? Not just
Yeah.
fine, you'll actively thrive.
Yes, exactly. Like, and you'll be able to do those things repeatedly most days, and it's not going to feel like it is some huge life overhaul, like a project that you're always trying to maintain. Like, I don't want to feel like I am a project manager for my life, for like, the things that I'm supposed to be enjoying, like eating and going to the gym. Like, there's enough that I am managing outside of that in my career and whatnot, that like I I just need to, and I think most people need this, you need to have stuff that you don't have to constantly be monitoring and thinking about. Because really when we think about establishing habits are intended to be pretty much automatic. So it's supposed to feel pretty easy. That's the thing. Like but I think a lot of people, there's a dissonance there because it's like, well, isn't it supposed to be, I'm showing my dedication and discipline
Yes.
and all
Yeah.
this and, can't feel easy.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to get better at exercising, find something you enjoy doing
Yes.
because you're going to do it,
Hmm.
right? If you just hate it, you're not going to stick to it. It's not going to be a long-term thing for you.
Yeah. And, I think that is part of what, people disagree with when it comes to weight neutral approaches. Because part of the weight neutral approach is to engage in physical activity. Doesn't necessarily have to be planned exercise, but engage in physical activity in a way that is enjoyable
Hmm.
and is done from a place of body respect. So it's not, doesn't have to be a grueling workout that you're doing to punish yourself or like work calories off. And I think that there are people in the fitness space that fringe when they hear like, oh, enjoyable, like that's not hard work. This is supposed to be a hard work. It's supposed to show like your discipline and that, you're a like good cog in the capitalist machine that's willing to like grind themselves away to be agreeable to the rest of society. Like, no, a weight neutral approach says, if you like to do Zumba, go do Zumba. If you want to do jazzercise, do it up,
Yeah.
and if you don't, and the other thing that people have a real problem with is that if you don't want to exercise, that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. That doesn't say anything, there's no moral
Right.
judgment if you don't want to exercise.
Right. And I think it all comes back to this informed consent, this bodily autonomy, knowing what you're getting into. Like, if you don't want to do it, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's yours. It's your body. Right?
Hmm.
You get to do with it whatever
Yes.
you want.
Yeah. And I had never really experienced like not wanting to work out until maybe in the last like year and a half.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I mean, a big part of it was like my life was so regimented and I was like very isolated. And for a long time, like the gym was like the only, the good hour and a half of my day was in the gym. And that was it. And then the rest of it was
Yeah.
kind of like, eh. Now life is like very, very good. And I enjoy plenty of things outside of the gym. And I don't feel ashamed of my body. I don't hate myself anymore. Like I don't have unmanageable amounts of anxiety. And so there have been some days when I'm kind of like, I don't, I kind of don't want to go today. Like that's weird. Is that okay?
Hmm.
Is it okay for me not to go? And even that was sort of a process to say,
Yeah.
well, I mean, yes, like morally speaking, I mean, like it doesn't say anything bad about me if I decide I'm not going to go to the gym today, even if I could go. But if I'm very tired and I know I'm going to want to go to the gym in a couple of days. If today I don't want to go, maybe I don't go. And you know what? I didn't go and I still went back to the gym. Sometimes it's like that level of flexibility and trust in myself that I know I'm going to go back and that I don't have to beat
Hmm.
myself up. And it doesn't have to be perfectionism or self-criticism or fear that are running the show, that it is a decision that I make And then there are other days when I'm like, I kind of don't want to go to the gym, but I'm just not going to think about it. I'm just going to go to the gym and I know I'm going to enjoy it. Yeah.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost like the opposite of eating the whole bag of Reese's peanut butter cups. It's like
Hmm.
you could not go for several days, but you'll want to go again, right?
Yes.
And almost
Yeah.
being away will make you want to get back. And like the thing I experienced with that is I I always trained for something. I grew up playing
Mm.
rugby, so we were in the gym to train for that. We were running to be better at rugby and this and that. And then after I finished playing rugby, I just had this like 15, 20-year stretch of just training, just to train. And it
Yeah.
just got really freaking boring.
Yes.
It's just like, well, what are we? I'm just gonna try and improve my back squat again, or like.
Huh?
So there was an element of like I just don't particularly want to do it,
Hmm.
and it's okay. Like I'm back in the gym, and you know
Right.
I'm doing other stuff now, but there was moving away from that very dogmatic approach into a hike is really good,
Yes.
and that's okay. And maybe going for a ride
Mm.
on my bike or a walk with Michelle, or like there's just there's so much available to you. But when we
Yes.
get the blinkers on and we get caught into this mindset of it has to look like this, it can be really challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, then, it's so funny that you say that, like how it got boring. I think that is part of what I went through, that it was like and I think this is a fear that people have. Well, if I don't hate my body, if I'm not mean to myself, if I'm not trying to hit a weight goal, what is going to keep me in the gym? What is going to keep
Hmm.
me, eating vegetables? To be honest, maybe nothing. Like maybe you will find that you are not one of the people that wants to be in the gym 5 days a week and having kale smoothies. And it might take some time to adjust to that reality about yourself. And that can be very confronting. I mean, I know that that was a fear that I had. And when I first started to experience this, like, oh, well, if I don't hate myself, then what is going to get me into the gym? And if I'm not miserable, the answer was nothing. I have to find something else. Like, it's either I go to the gym because I enjoy it, or because I know it's a good stress relief, or because I want to maintain my muscle mass and my bone mineral density. And so it does take effort in that way to realign yourself with fitness and nutrition and however that is going to look when you're not going 100%. I think a lot of people have a difficult time with that because it's like they're all or nothing. If they're not going 100%, then they feel like they're failing. And, I think it's on us to help clients who are in this transitional period, to say, like, it doesn't have to be 100%. Like, here are 20 other ways that you can be physically active in a day. Like, what sounds fun to you?
Right. Well, on that note, I just looked at the clock and I've kept you way past what I promised would keep you because I can't believe how quick this conversation has gone. I've really enjoyed
It
chatting with you.
seriously has.
So
Same,
we wrap up
same.
every show with three takeaways
Hmm.
from today's conversation or from your work that people can take away today and put into their lives to improve their relationship with their own body. So what would be
Hmm.
your three?
To remember that liking the way that you look does not mean that you have a positive body image, but fortunately, you can focus on training a positive body image. That'd be number one. Number two would be that an appearance based weight loss goal isn't necessarily harmful or unethical or wrong. It is just riskier than other goals. And you have to be aware of the risks and realities and honest with yourself about what you're hoping is going to bring you, because nothing is guaranteed except for a smaller body. Um, and number three would be that establishing a healthy relationship with yourself is a long process, but it really is foundational when it comes to being able to build a healthy relationship with fitness and with food that comes from a place of appreciation and self-care rather than dissatisfaction and striving for some perfection that is unrealistic.
Amazing. I love those. And I think this conversation will be so impactful for our listeners. I'm so grateful for you sharing this time and your wisdom with us. Where can people find you and follow along with your work and maybe even get in touch?
Absolutely. Yeah. People can follow me at trust_and_nourish on Instagram or trustandnourish.com/start for my website. And I do have a webinar coming up mid-November on coaching weight loss responsibly. So if people want to check that out, that would be fantastic.
Beautiful. Well, once again, thank you so much. This has been absolutely wonderful and packed with great insight for people.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely hope that it's helpful for folks.
What an incredibly powerful conversation with Dr. Gabrielle Fundaro. Here are the 3 key things you can take away from today's episode. Number 1, remember that liking the way you look does not mean you have a positive body image. The good news is you can actively train a positive body image by developing flexibility towards your appearance and learning to be respectful and trustful of yourself, regardless of how your body looks in any given moment. Number 2, an appearance-based weight loss goal isn't necessarily harmful or wrong, but it is riskier for your mental health than goals focused on health or performance. Make sure you understand those risks and get really honest with yourself about what you're really hoping weight loss will deliver. Because the only thing that's guaranteed is a smaller body, not happiness, not confidence, or better relationships. Number 3, establishing a healthy relationship with yourself is a long process that may take many years, not weeks, but it's the foundation of everything else. When your relationship with fitness and food comes from appreciation and self-care rather than dissatisfaction and perfectionism, everything starts to change. If this episode resonated with you, the best way to support the show is to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts, leave a rating or review, and share it with someone who you think would benefit from hearing this message. It makes a real difference in helping us reach more people. You can also stay connected with us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Vitality Collective Performance, where we share additional insights, behind-the-scenes content, and updates on upcoming episodes. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.